Gork and Mork. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and deities of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And on this glorious Orktober day, we shall be discussing the great gods of the Orks, a pantheon of two, Gork and Mork. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, the Ork gods. The Orks do not worship their gods in the way that other races do. They do not have priests or raise grandiose temples, but instead honor their deities by hurling down the idols and shrines built by others. What effigies the Orks build are towering walkers, around whose metal feet the greenskins surge into battle, offering praise only to the most instinctive and gestalt kind. The Orks are a powerful force in the galaxy. Their character traits have a reflection in the warp, just like the impulses and emotions of humanity and the Elder Eye. These attributes are made manifest in the belligerent Ork gods known as Gork and Mork. The Orks say that Gork is brutal but cunning, and Mork is cunning but brutal. Gork and Mork are divine powerhouses, deities so strong they are never truly defeated. They simply shrug off the attacks of other gods with a raucous laugh. Gork grins, bares his long teeth, and lands a mighty blow on his adversary's head, with a spike club the size of a comet. Mork, always the sneaky one, waits until his foe is not looking before clobbering him with a low blow. An idea of the appearance of the Ork gods can be gained from looking at gargants and stompers, towering machines constructed in the image of Gork, or possibly Mork. The mech boys create these titanic engines of war to capture the essence of orkiness in mechanical form, and as such, they serve as potent religious idols. To the greenskins, these clanking behemoths behave very much like their gods, lumbering about and leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. They go where they please, and never shun a fight. The aspects of Gork and Mork are likewise evoked by the Gorkanaut and Morkanaut. These huge armoured warsuits are intended as a tribute to, an imitation of, their chosen god, and their pilots are frequently gripped by visions of Gork and possibly Mork, urging them on during the heat of battle. Now that Gork's grin has split the stars, the war cries of the Ork gods ring out louder and clearer. Visions of battle and carnage flash through the mind of every greenskin. Weird boys gibber and bellow with the voices of Gork and Mork, commanding their fellows to surge forth upon war after war, and plunge the entire galaxy into anarchy. In the warp, the Ork gods lumber ever onwards along their metaphysical warpath, sweeping away tides of demons with every gleeful blow. They know that soon the veil will split asunder altogether, and then at last they will burst forth from the immaterium to lead their entire race in an apocalyptic crusade known as the Great War. Gork. Brutal but cunning. It would be unfair to say that either of the Ork deities is anything other than a god of war. Yet of the two, Gork more conveniently fits the title. He is the favoured patron of war bosses and knobs, goths and snakebites, and really any Ork who has a particular hankering for stomping some enemies with a minimum of mucking about. Gork is a landslide of brutality, a ferocious storm of hammering fists, kicking feet, and tusks bared in a bestial and everlasting bellow. He is the summation of every greenskin's violent urges, and his cheerful belligerence drives them ever onwards. Mork. Cunning but brutal. When a mech boy feels the inspiration to build a new contraption, or a Bradax gets a sudden strategic inkling, or a Death Skull spots an opportunity to stab an enemy in the back, this is the work of Mork. Although no stranger to brutal violence, Mork is a wily deity. He is the obsessive need in every odd boy, the devious gleam in a grot's eye, and the fang-filled leer of a commando in the moments before he springs his ambush. Mork is the orc's bestial cunning personified, and he delights in every instance of his race shocking, surprising, and bewildering their luckless foes. End quote. Immense fun. Now, the great gods Gork and Mork are very interesting as of the last few years. Before, they were distant things that were just the cause of hilarity and many a wonderful meme. But as of late, the great gods have given signals that they are beginning to take an interest in the corporeal world of the materium, that they are now watching their charges, the orcs, and preparing for the great war. The emissary of the gods, Gazgul Mag Uruksraka, was previously seen as an oddity that was probably delusional, for he had half of his skull blown out and brain which was therein contained. But when he recovered, he stated that he heard the voices of the gods, Gork and Mork. For long decades it was discussed and chortled at, but now, as of the 8th edition Codex and later the 9th, and then of course the recent Psychic Awakening campaign books, Gazgul is undeniably under their direct protection, for they have swept down and dragged him through the warp at the most appropriate moments, literally snatching the war boss from the clutches of his human enemies and throwing him across the galaxy. They have awoken. But why would they do so now, after millions of years of jovially battling one another? For Gork and Mork did not intervene in all of the time that the Eldar ruled the galaxy. Not when the orcs were broken and reduced down from their truer form, the Krork, unto the orcs. Not when the Eldar culled them and herded them into the very fringes of the galaxy, acting as population control for millions of years. Not then. Why now? Some say that it is the increased potential of the galaxy. Some say that it is indeed the creation of Gork and Mork's grin. Some may say that this is the increased potential of the galaxy. For now there is the Imperium. Now there is the Great Devourer. Now there are the Warriors of Chaos. Often I have heard this countered, at least due to the Imperium and the Warriors of Chaos, as they have ruled for over 10 or 11 millennia or more. Surely Gork and Mork would have awoken earlier if the Imperium was the cause. All I can say to that is that 10,000 years or more are but the blink of an eye to these entities, and it may have taken them this long before they even noticed the humans, the humies. But I have to admit that I do not think this is the strongest argument, for were the Eldar not as warlike as the humans, all are children of the Old Ones. So where I am presently leaning is the other options. That it is not just action that Gork and Mork crave, but true enemies that are not effectively their relatives, are it humans or Eldar. In earlier editions of Warhammer, orcs would not eat the flesh of humans, as they were also children of the Brain Boys, the Old Ones. But this is no longer the case, but it does lend weight to the following theories. The first is simple. The Necrons have awoken again. The Necrons were enemies of the Old Ones, and the orcs were bred, designed, and created to be their enemy. Hence, the psychic gestalt of the race has activated to meet this old threat. Their gods have awoken. The second is even simpler. Survival. Now, the orcs have never truly been in any peril, not in any real danger. Even at the height of the Eldar culls, even when the Great Crusade was in full swing, and they were killing orcs by the billions, but they were never able to wipe them out. The orc infestation of the galaxy, as either Eldar or the Imperium might say, is a given. It is simply too difficult to eradicate them. Please see my video titled The Secret History of the Orcs and Krork for the why of the matter. But things have changed. The Great Devourer, the Tyranids, are actually a dire threat to the orcs. They wipe entire ecosystems away, and that would include every single orc spore. So finally, in the Tyranids, is a threat that could bring about the end of the orc race. Note that I find this to be a compelling argument, for the gods of the orcs, as we have heard earlier, are the subconscious of this race. They are the gestalt of every orc's will and energy that they have generated for millions and millions of years. If the Emperor is now a god due to the faith of humanity over less than 9 millennia, just think how powerful these beings are. There are other perspectives on this, but they are for another day, as they involve my suspicions about the nature and purpose of the human soul in Warhammer 40k. I hope to get to that by the end of the year, just so you know. So, in my mind, the activation of the Orc Gods, their goal of pushing Ghazghkull to combine the tribes and clans of Waz to become an overlord to all of his race. This is to bring them back to their sublime state of being Krork. For it needs only for enough of them to gather, and then this transformation will occur. And if that does happen, then the orcs will be no laughing matter at all. And it is either their ancestral enemies, the Necrons, or the new and actual threat to them, the Tyranids, that have forced Gork and Mork to intervene. Of course, their activity is being increased because of the grin of Gork. But this has just made it easier, because they were talking to Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka way before the grin of Gork existed. Hence, they were already aware, already interested. Let us hope, for the Imperium's sake, that the great gods Gork and Mork do still see some familial ties with the Emperor and humanity. Or otherwise, the war of the gods will be very one-sided indeed. And I will not be putting any money on the dark gods or the Childseer, as the Elder called the Emperor, on this one. For none can stand against the power of Kunnin Brutality and Brutal Kunning. None can stand before the power of Gork and Mork. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Gork and Mork. If so, then do please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. If you see the worth in what we are doing, then do also consider joining our Patreon, or giving the video a share if that is beyond your present scope. It would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.